Alright, so what I want to do is a few DP problems because I feel like my DP is a lot weaker than I think it used to be. I feel like there was a point where my DP was alright. Like I kind of could see what the ideas were and stuff. Oops, that's not how you look for DP questions. Um, Jesus, there we go. So I want to try a few. Just I want to get good at it because I feel like I can. I feel like it's math based. Like it's uh okay. I probably should start with the easy and medium problems and then go through the hard ones afterwards. I don't think it's worth if I go through the hard ones straight away. So I've got an advantage here. Whoops. I've got an advantage because I know that it's a DP problem, which, to be honest, is usually the part that I struggle with the most. It's like figuring out, well, not, it can sometimes be the part that I struggle with the most. It's like realizing that it's a DP problem. There was a recent problem. I think it was this one. No. This one. Where I straight up just used, I made a graph basically and sold it like that, and it worked, but it was very slow compared to what people ended up doing with the DP. And I read through the solutions that were on this question, but I don't really know if I understood it very well. So I think I'm hoping that if I do a few DP problems, it'll be a bit easier to understand, you know, how that solution works. I think I'll start with this one, interleaving string, because I feel like that should be good. Given strings S1, S2, S3, find whether S3 is formed by interleaving of S1 and S2. Interleaving of strings is a configuration where S and T are divided into N and M substrings, sequence contiguous, okay, respectively, such that S goes from S1 to Sn. Divided into N plus M substrings. Okay, so you don't lose any characters, you don't discard any, and N minus M is less than or equal to 1. So so like very close. Either N is 1 bigger, M is 1 bigger, or they're the same number. The interleaving is S1 plus T1, S2 plus T2, S3 plus T3, or T1 plus S1, T2 plus S2. Okay. Note that A plus B is the concatenation of strings. Yes. So if you have A, B, C, C versus D, B, B, C, A, then you can create this third string, A, D, B, B, C, B, C, A, C, by taking S1 to be that, T1 to be just the D. Oh no, sorry, T1 to be DBB. Um, S2 to be BC, T2 to be A, and then S3 to be just the C. So that means that N was 3 because you have 3 substrings in S, and then T was 2 because you have 2. So the difference thing it holds. So you return true. And then, okay, I'm more interested in the negative case, I think. So for example, you have A and A to make the AA, a D here for the D here, a B here for the B here, 2 more B's for the B's here. Oh, and the A. Oh no, but there's a C first. So that's where you get stuck. There's an A here, but you have no way of making an A. Okay, notice how it is impossible to interleave S2 with any other string to obtain S3. Wow. Okay, so yeah, things quite small. And can you do it with a linear amount of space, S2 amount of space? Probably not. Okay, this one I will need my OneNote and my empty pen. So now you have an interleaving string. Okay. So yeah, let's just work through an example again. So take this guy. Okay. So S1 is like A, B, C, C. S2 is all about D, B, B, C, A. And then the eventual thing we get is, hang on, is A, D, B, B, C, B, C, A, and C, right? So what we notice, first of all, if we have like a pointer or whatever pointing to the start of S3, we notice that it's an A. So there's no way that we can start with like an S2 substring. That wouldn't make sense because that's a D. So we know that for sure, like, okay, we need, I guess we should have 2 pointers pointing here or here maybe, just so we can keep track of what the next character could be. And we know that we should start with the A. And we can move down. This one should stay, and this one should move down as well. Maybe I make it like green or something. So yeah, so it's like, this is almost like a weird, like, not regex, but it's like, yeah, like, because it's string matching, right? So it's like, it feels like it could be like the regex problem. How would I DP this? It would be like, it'd be something to do with like, if I have the A, if I have like, instead of having the whole of S1, if I have like a little bit of S1 and a little bit of S2, is it possible to interleave a little bit of S3 kind of thing? I feel like it's like a I feel like you can make it like a 3-dimensional thing maybe. Because that way you kind of have access to, because for example, let's say I somehow knew, given this string and given this string and given this string, I knew that it was possible to do the interleaving process. Like it was possible to have an A here and then like blah 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 blah, right? Like I knew to put the A here, then the D here, B, B, and then like C and then a B and then wait, C, B, sorry, whatever. Let me say that again. If I have just these strings, if I already knew that to go from A to A, I knew that it was possible to do the interleaving process by like, putting an A here, then D, B, DB, I think just DB, DB here, and then BC? No, it was DBBC, it was all four, wasn't it? So A here, DBBC, and then BC, and then A, and then C. If I knew that somehow, like by iterating backwards through the strings, then by the time I was solving this other problem of like, okay, given both of these strings and the entirety of this string, is it possible? Well, it would be a matter of checking, okay, if I try to match the S1, to this guy over here, then I'm basically re-asking that other question of like, given the remaining string, is it possible to interleave given these two strings? That's where I think. So I think the DP is kind of iterating backwards through the array, through all these strings, and asking, is it possible to interleave based on the last few characters of each? So my DP would be like I, J, K would be my first step, and then it's like basically this is basically saying, given the last I characters of given the last I characters of S1 and the last J characters of S2 and the last K characters of S3. So it's like I think a Boolean output maybe. Can you do the interleaving process between, I guess, S1 from like n minus, I shouldn't use n, L1 minus I up to L1. Like, I don't know how to write it. Can you do the interleaving process between that S1 and S2 substring to produce the S3 substring? The thing I'm not really sure about is like the whole making sure that the number of segments you have is like close. At most, the difference between them is at most 1. Like that final thing. I think maybe there's 2 things in here. It's like an M, like on top of a true false, there's also like an NM tuple available, which tells you how many segments there are. See, because like the edge case is kind of like, or the weird case is when you have like S3 is like A, B, C, D, or whatever. And then S1 starts with an A, and S2 also starts with an A. And like maybe they both kind of have a B somewhere. Also, the sum of S1 and S2, like their lengths, should equal S3, right? Because like it wouldn't make sense otherwise. A, B, C, D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6. Or maybe the C goes before. So let me just see if I can work through this example and see if this would at all work. So what I'm thinking is, oh, deep, oh, my blinds fell. Hold on. So given the 0 characters and the 0 characters and 0 characters, can you interleave? I think the answer is true. I think the answer is true because like you have nothing to interleave, so yeah, you don't come across any problems, I guess. Now, I think if I plus j is not equal to k, you can immediately sort of report false because in order for the interleaving to work, there needs to be the same number of characters in S1 and S2 as there are in S3. So I guess, yeah, if you're saying like 1, 1, 0, this is false. Or sorry, 1, 0, 0, this is false. Like all those cases where like you're given characters um, or you're given characters like here and no characters here, or the number of characters is smaller or bigger here, um, should report false. Now, for example, if you have DP112, all right, so now we have a point where the sum, oh no, I should do a smaller thing. 101 is actually the first one you'd find. Now, the sum of the first two numbers is equal to the sum of the third. So, what are we saying? You have the last character in 1, no characters in 2, and the last character in 3. And the only way this can work is if the, this is equal to this. So in this case, it'd be false. Then you have DP011, which is also, again, it follows the sum thing. Oh, I didn't mean to erase the C. So now we have U and U, and yeah, they match, so that should report true. So DP011 is true, and I feel like I need to bear in mind that like there are 0 segments from string 1 and there's 1 segment from string 2. I don't know, like I feel like that's important information to remember. Basically keeping track of the n and m values in this point. DP of 0, or it's like 202 is equal to, so you have the first two characters, obviously it won't work, because no match. DP of 022 does work. It works, but this is where it gets awkward. Oh, no, sorry, it's 01, isn't it? Not 02, sorry. And then DP 112. So the sum works, so you're given the first two. So this does work. CD, so true, 1 segment each. DP 033. So 033 isn't going to work because the match, this guy doesn't match with this guy. So false. DP of 303 probably won't work either because yeah, this guy doesn't match with that guy, so false. DP of 123 so 1, 2, and 3. So none of these guys match with the B, so that won't work. False. Wait, what? Oh, it's because right, that's why. DP 1, 2, 3. False. DP of 2, 1, 3. So given the first two here, given this guy here, this does work because we would see that this guy matches, and then it's a question of, okay, since this guy matches, does it work if we try to put, a C and a D with the last two characters, which we've already answered. We know that's true. So we kind of can get that true result by reusing the DP result. Like, okay, the B matches with the B. That's fantastic. And then the question becomes, can we interleave C and D with C and D? And the answer is yes. Do I need an extra dimension where, like, either it starts with S1 or it starts with S2? Like, do I need a fourth thing? Does that make sense? Because, like, let's say I get the true result and I know that there's one segment each. There's still kind of two possibilities at that point where it's like, did it start with an S1 or did it start with an S2? Did it start with the C, or in this case it started with the C and then the D, right? In order to interleave the C and D together, which means when we come back to this case, 2, 1, there was one segment and there was one segment. But if there was a D here and then a C here, that would mean it went B and then D and then C, in which case there's two segments here, one segment here. I feel like I need a fourth dimension. It's only two. The size of this will only be 2. But yeah, I have a weird feeling that I have to double up, where like I keep track of if it's 0 here, or if it's 0 here, that means constraining the constraining it so that you only have one. Constraining it, so if this is 0, that means constraining it so that you have to start with an S1 segment. Does it work? And then making it a 1 means constraining it so that you have to start with an S2 segment. If we do that, I think when we get to BC, and I constrain it so that you have to start with S1, it will return true, and I know that it's going S1, S1 together, so that's one segment, You're not actually increasing the number of segments at all. Whereas if it's false, and then you try starting with D, and it does work, obviously it won't in this case, but if it does work, then you know that you're increasing the number of segments in S1, and your tuple should increase by 1 in that sense. Okay, so a 4D DP problem. Apparently you can reduce it down to one-dimensional, which is hilarious, eventually, but let me just see if this can work at all. This is very scary, but here we go. I don't even know how to set up a 4D thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first index for S1 len is the length of S1. S2 len is equal to the length of S2. S3 len is equal to the length of S3. So we have, is this just 2? Because this is my 0, 1. Like the innermost dimension is usually the innermost dimension first, right? Like the latest dimension. Like in 2D arrays, you do the column array first, the column dimension first, like how many columns you have, and then how many rows. So you have how many of these guys you have, and then okay. And then for but it should be +1, because like I need to be able to store both when S3 equals the length of S3, like when the dimension equals the length of S3, but I also need to store the 0 dimension. So I think it needs to be like +1 in a bunch of places. Oh no, it's gonna spill. For, I guess, how should the dimensions change? Like, should this increase? Doesn't matter. For I in range, 0 up to S1 len +1, I think, because I wanted to take the value of S1 len. For J in range, S2 len +1. For K in range, S3 len plus 1. And then we don't need to really loop the fourth one because there's only two things. Okay, if I equals 0 and j equals 0 and k equals 0, then we can set things to true kind of immediately. I, j, k, and then I'll make constants, hang on. So start with s1 equals 0, start with s2 equals 1. Start with, just to make that fourth dimension make a bit more sense, equals true, and also I guess like 0 segments from each, and start with s2 is also true, 0 segments of each. Elif I plus j is not equal to k. This is where this idea comes in, right? If they're not if they don't add up the same, that means you don't have, either you have too many letters in S1 and S2 to make S3, or you don't have enough letters in S1 or S2 to make S3. So then we can immediately dpi j, oops, j, what? I, j, k, start, no, I can just copy this, equals false, and then just to make sure that the data looks a bit consistent, we'll do this, and also S2. Else, solve dp I, j, k 0, and then solve dp I, j, k 1. Okay, so what am I doing again? I didn't really write down the recurrence, I just kind of so we get to like, we'll get to something like 101, for example. That'll be one of the, yeah, that'll be one of the things. What do we have to do? We're given the very first character and the very first character. Okay, so solving this. If S1 at negative I, that's going to access the ith, like the last ith character, right? So for 1, we'll access that C, is not equal to S3 at negative K, accessing the K to the last character, right? Then we can immediately set this to false because it didn't match. Like trying to start with S1 isn't going to work. Otherwise, elif, so if they do match, then we have to try dp I minus 1, same j, k minus 1, start with S1, see, wait, but what if they're both true and I don't know which one to pick? So my thinking was like, check start with S1, in which case, if that's true, if the Boolean thing, is so confusing now. Else, so much nesting, oh my god. Results and segments or whatever is equal to this. If results then dp at ij k start with s1 is equal to true, segments will be segments won't change. It's the same segment, because if you're starting with s1 at this point and the true result came from starting with s1, then the number of segments didn't change from that previous case. And then result segments is equal to dp I minus 1 j k minus 1 and then start with s2 if results see, like, this is what I mean. So I have two, like, if they're both results, what do I do? Both of them return true. So in what case would that happen? Let's try to think of an example. So I'm worried that, imagine you have like C, 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 A, A, like somehow they both could work for the C, you know? Something like this maybe. So you have to start, so like going backwards, it's like both of these, so both dp101 would be set to true, and dp of 011 would be set to true, because, you know, if you just have this character, you can definitely match this one. If you just have this character, you can match this one. Then dp of 2, if you have 2, 1, skipping ahead a little bit, if you have 2, 1, if you have 2, 1, oh, there is some weird stuff actually. If I is equal to 0, then this should be false. Because, like, you can't start with S1 if I is equal to 0. Elif, if they don't match, then also false. Else, do all this thing. God. So 2, 1. Hang on, what am I saying? So 2, 1, 3. That is to say, and let's say, yeah, you can either start with S1 or start with S2. Start with S2. So in the top situation, you've got here and 1, 2, 3. You check if it matches. Oh yeah, so this will return false straight away because it won't match. But you check this, and you're left with C, C. So I guess it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter which way you... Doesn't matter which... Like, you would want to pick the way that minimizes the difference in segments, right? Like, why make it go C and C? Like, that works, but why do that if you could go C and... Hang on. Let me do it like this. Hang on. A, C, C, A, C, C versus same situation. But if you have the opportunity to take the first segment and do that, and then the second segment and do that, why would you try to make things difficult by splitting it into these two segments. You know? Surely you should prioritize this over this. Like, both of them managed to achieve... Yeah, because, like, all of this has been solved already. So, yeah, I think... Okay. I think I respect that. If results, else... If results, otherwise, results and segments, you check this guy. If results work there, then they should say segments, right? If results, then this thing should become start with S1. Yeah, starting with S1, but the segments, the number of segments becomes this, and the number of segments of 1 stays the same. God, this is so confusing. Anyway, and then I think that works. And then you just have to do the whole thing again for like mirrored logic for starting with. Never should copy and paste, but here we are. If j is 0, solving for this, then starting with S2 should be false. If minus j we already checked that. Okay, so at this point, if j is equal to 0, then this. Otherwise, if j is not equal to 0, then we know for sure k shouldn't equal to 0 because I plus j equals k. We know that. So we can check this pretty safely. If they don't match, you should say S2 now. Oh god, I'm gonna miss something. If S2 at j doesn't match, S3 at k, then it should be false. Otherwise, hang on. That should be S2, S1, right? You would rather start with S2 for the next part, and this should be same I, but j minus 1. If results, then this thing starting with 2, else try it with starting with S, starting with S1. If results, then start with S2, should be segments, where this stays the same, but the number of segments from S2 increases by 1. Else, if there's still no thing, then this should just be false. Else, this thing should be false. Jesus. What's that coding smell? Nesting? Okay, there's better ways to code this up. I'll think about it. And the idea is like so result that I care about is dp S1 len, S2 len, S3 len, and start with S1. Result and segments. Result 1, segments 1. And then result 2, segments 2 is same thing, but start with S2. Result 2, segments 2. If result and the absolute difference between segments 1 at 0 minus segments 1 at 1 is less than or equal to 1, then return true. Same thing over here. If result 2 and segments 2 minus segments 2, segments 0, segments 1, return true. And if we go through that whole thing and we didn't get anything, then return false. What are the chances this is correct? Pretty much 0. What? Oh, result, not results. I did it again. Oh yeah, because I copy and paste it. There we go. Oh, that indicates I haven't actually done it yet. Is that why? Okay, that's awkward. I guess I didn't. Maybe I didn't solve it in the correct order. um, result segments dpi j minus 1 k minus 1. Well, you should have solved it because your for loops are increasing everywhere. Like, by the time you reach a particular ijk pair, you've definitely solved everything where um, I at least one of them are smaller. You know, none of them should be bigger, but all of them. You should have solved all the subproblems where I is smaller or j is smaller or k is smaller, at least. So I should be able to access. I should have been able to access this result without too much fuss, right? Mm. Elif S2 minus J, S3 minus K, dp at ijk. Start with S2, false, none, none. So yeah, if it's true, there should be 0, 0. And then none, none if it's false, none, none a bunch of times, and then a bunch of using the segments over and over again. What if I put this in the massive try catch? Just so I can like try all of this except on type error. I just want to print maybe I shouldn't wrap it around. I need access to those variables, so I shouldn't do it here. What's the line? dpij minus 1k 47. This one. Try this. Oops. Try this. Except on type error. Print I get to get the I equals I, j equals j, k equals k, and I mean generally it would be nice to print the dp thing as well. However, a little bit concerned that 4 dimensions is going to be a bit tricky for me to read. Whoops. All right. Try that one more time. Whoa. That's terrifying. Pretty print, maybe? That help? From print import print. Okay, so the values are I, 2, 1, 2, and 3. So that means you have one of these and you have two of these. Ah. Wait, I have a question. If you do get a false result, does that mean like you can return false straight away? Because like probably not, right? I should probably solve for the whole thing. Because it was like in my mind, it's like I is here and J is 2 is here. And it's like, well, you're never going to be able to solve it. Like, if no like that A there is going to is supposed to rock up somewhere here. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't do it like that. Um. Oh God. Okay, hang on. So this is like the true thing, and then this is like, how is this organized? God, yeah. What it mentions is not easy to read through. So this is okay. So you got the start with 0, start with 1, start with S1, start with S2. You got that on either side, and then you have because that's the length of 2, and then you have each k value. K value of 0, k value of 1, k value of 2, k value of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ooh. Okay, so maybe I am missing cases. Because that shouldn't happen, right? For example, so IJK was 1, 2, and 3, and it crashed when we tried DPI minus 1J and K minus 1. So it crashed when I was 0. So maybe I'm like missing the times when I or J is 0. But I thought this would handle that. Well, looking at the output, there are points where, you know, clearly, because like here, clearly I have handled this particular IJK triplet because it's been, it's been solved. But for some reason, when I get to here, this particular thing hasn't been solved yet. So I've missed solving some set of subproblems. Here as well, it happened. Afterwards, it's like, yeah, I haven't solved any of these yet. That's why it's all none, 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 none like that. But until then, I shouldn't have stuff like that. Okay, good job. Try accept did well by me. Do I really have to try and like? So for IJ in range S1, yeah. So we're going through each of these possibilities. If they're all 0, in the very first instance, when they're all 0, then just make it true. That happened. If they're not, if the sum of these two doesn't equal the sum of that, then yeah. Else, if we have to solve for start with S1. Solve dp ij start with S1, ijk start with S1. So if I is equal to 0, then you can immediately set this to false. Because like immediately set to false. Because, you know, how can you start with the S1 if there's no S1 to start with? You know? If S1 at minus I is not match S3 at minus K, then there's no way you can start with S1. So again, make it false. Otherwise, result at segments, result. So yeah, if the if branch sets it, the elif branch sets it, the else branch, result segments, you get the previous result. Sets it, true is the boolean, and segments is a tuple, right? I hope. Well, at least the true should be set anyway. If result, then yeah, else. So that if statement sets it, this else statement sets it once, sets it again. So that should, yeah, like I feel like, where am I missing values? It was at 0, 2, 2. 0, 2, 2 it wasn't set, but I feel like it should have been over here. When I equals to 0, that's the very first loop that happens. I equals to 0, so like, I don't know. If result dp at ijk start with S2 is true, segments. Ah, wait. I didn't change this to S. This is saying start with S2. Yeah, this should be this. No. Wait, what? No. Should this say S1? Why does it say S2? Maybe that's what happened. Oh, my brain. Hang on. So solving for start with S1. Yeah, no, that's why. Why was that? Why did that say S2? Did that say S2 for time? So from the pretty print. Yeah, this shouldn't say S1. This shouldn't say S2. This should say S1. Okay, that might be why that happened. Some things were never getting. Oh, it works. No way. It's already 40 milliseconds. Unbelievable. Let me get rid of the try except because I feel like that's not really necessary. I kind of want to just send it because I'm like already done, but okay. Clearly, this is not what you're meant to do. I think the DP idea is there. I don't know how to do it well. I did 4 dimensions. Granted, the last dimension is small. It's only 2. It's only got a size of 2. But are the test cases available? I don't know if people were just like submitting test cases this early in LeetCode. Oh, they were. Some edge cases, maybe? What? Oh, because of the try catch. Wow. Well, good thing I didn't just send it. Alright. Screw it. I think the runtime is crazy, but I also think the constraints are small enough where I might get away with it. Yeah. Okay. Before we move on, it's meant to be like 50 milliseconds. Oh my god. Okay. The idea was there though. I managed to think of the DP. Granted, I knew it was a DP. That's the only thing that this won't teach me. Or maybe it will if I do enough problems, but the thing I'm practicing the least is like figuring out if it should be a DP question, because I already know ahead of time because I'm looking for DP problems. But the idea was there. The idea was there. It just needs to figure out how you meant to make it normal, like this. So 2D, first of all, 2D 2D thing. So you have m and n as the length of the. Okay, good. So you have the edge case. That I should have thought of that actually. I think I did, but I forgot about it. Naturally, if the length of S1, the length of S2 is not the same as length of S3, you're not gonna be able to do the interleaving thing. So return false. DP equals false. So they only have a Boolean. They only have Boolean stuff. They didn't bother with the segment stuff at all, which is interesting. And yeah, 2 dimensions for the length of S2, the length of S1. I figured that's what you were meant to do. I just couldn't figure out how to handle like. Oh wait, no, they didn't even have the K thing. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I thought you'd have to do a 3 thing. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so you only need 2D. DP of 0, 0 is equal to true, naturally, because if you have no. Oh wait, yeah. How do you specify? Because I'm assuming this means like. Because the K is inferred. The K is inferred, you silly goose. You know what the value of K is. Because it's the sum of. Oh my goodness. Okay, yes, that gets rid of 1 dimension, fine. Oh, I should have clocked that one every time I said if it's not equal, just make it false. If I plus j doesn't equal k, make it false. The value of k is inferred. You don't need a whole dimension for it. You know the value of k. The value of k is fixed based on I and j. So if one dimension is dependent on the other two, there's no point in having the third dimension. Okay, fine. Okay. But how did you handle like the segment difference thing? So dp of 0, 0, which because you know the k value is 0, is true, fine. Fill the first row using only S2. For j in range, 1 plus n plus 1. Yes, that's what I did basically. No, I didn't. He actually did like a base case thing. So for filling the first row, so dp of 0 for each j value, you consider. Can you make it match? Does the current character match? Oh, they went forwards to the array. They went forwards to the string. I went backwards to the string. I don't know if that's makes any difference. Maybe it doesn't. S2 at j minus 1 should match S3 at j minus 1. And everything before should have matched as well. Maybe it's only forward to the string because you're like trying to check if you can just use j for that part of the string. And same kind of vibe here. Can you match? But yeah, does the when you say I dp at I, are you talking about the start of the string or the back of the string? You might be talking about, maybe they're also talking about the back of the string because I was talking about the back of the string. For I in j range 1, for j in range 1. So I'm assuming, yeah, when you take the first character maybe from the back of S1 up to the m characters, the whole of S1, and then same thing here. Take the first character from S2 up to the n characters. Remember, this is exclusive, so only up to n characters from S2. So from S1, dp at I minus 1j and S1 I minus 1 is equal to S3 at I plus j minus 1. Can take from S1 if the chars match and the previous state is valid. Can take from S1 if the chars match. Can take from S1 if the chars match. As in, like, you can take starting from S1. I'm assuming this is what this means. This is like how they handle the starting thing. Can take from S1 if the chars match and the previous state is valid. So I'm assuming this is somehow pointing to, so taking the I minus 1th character. So they must be going through forwards to the string instead of backwards. Taking the I minus 1th character, checking that it matches I plus j minus 1th character. Right, so I think it's like taking my logic and making it go forwards instead of backwards. Like, yeah. Can you, basically, if you're considering the first I characters in S1 and the first J characters in S2, obviously K is in third, Anujan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, you know that K is 5. You don't need to have a whole freaking dimension for it, but fine. The question is, okay, I'm allowed to make U match to U if and only if U2 match, and also the DP result of 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, is also true. So that's what is happening here. So DP I minus 1, J, so taking one less character, and they match. And then from S2, you can also try from S2, dp I minus I, J minus 1, and S2 J minus 1. Yeah, so same idea. So if instead, if we have these three, but I want to try this one instead, first of all, these two need to match, and then we can try I equals 3. We can try I equals 3 and J equals now 1 because you have one less character. And now, obviously, the K value will be 4 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, looking if it matches it. Okay, that makes sense. I'm a little bit confused about how you maintain this condition. Like, how do you guarantee that will... I guess, how would you even manage to exceed it? How would you manage to make it so that one segment is a lot and one segment is not a lot? Like, you have a C here, and then you have like an A here. That's the same number of segments. And then you have like another C here. I don't think it's possible to have segments that are like, I don't think it's possible for this to be violated. Right? Like, how would you interleave the string in such a way that there's more of one segment than the other segment? Because, like, let's say S1 represents a segment from S1 and S2, I mean, that's, yeah. Capital S1 refers to a segment from S1 and another S1. Like, if you put two segments like this without anything in between them, that's just one segment. That's not two different segments. It's not like you can have S1, S1, S1. Like, this isn't 4 segments. This is one segment. I think this was just to throw me. Oh my god, I fell for it as well. I was so paranoid about that. I was like, oh my god, what if the segments, what if it seems like I got a true result, but then the number of segments differs more? I don't think that's possible. Does that say that in the editorial? Oh, of course. Sorry, I'm gonna have to just like... Yeah, there was an early exit thing. Okay. Damn, this guy. It's a paper. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a distractor, or like it's just to make you paranoid. This condition, there's no, like, these first two conditions and the fact that the interleaving works like this means this isn't like this will always happen. So I didn't even. Oh, okay. Well, at least I got it. I got the DP ideas. I just got really tripped out. I got really played a lot. I'm not gonna bother with the follow up because I'm not even good enough at DP to do it normally. So I don't think it's worth the follow up right now. Maybe another time. So yeah, these tuples completely unnecessary. This third dimension completely unnecessary. All right, but at least we got it. You know, it's a bit of momentum. We'll take it.